Hey guys, welcome to the NC Barndo Build channel. This is part 2 of our MrCool VersaPro setup. If you missed part 1, we looked at how to initially get power to the outdoor unit, how to get power from that outdoor unit to the indoor air handler, how to hook up the auxiliary heat module. We looked at how to incorporate a Santa Fe whole home dehumidifier in with your MrCool VersaPro. We looked at a 24 volt mesh thermostat, which is controlling all of these pieces of equipment that you see in here. And we looked at the dip switch settings on our unit. In today's video, I want to go over the secondary float switch setup to shut the unit down in the event that the drain pan gets to a point where it's going to start flooding and overflowing. We're going to look at a Broan ERV setup and how to interlock the two fans together and get these two pieces of equipment working in harmony with one another to both ventilate and heat and cool your home. And as a bonus, I've seen an error code several times on this MrCool unit during the setup process that you may see on yours. So I want to show you that error code and how to fix that. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get started.
All right, in the book it says to enable, remove jumper J1 and connect the installer provided condensate overflow device to CN5 per table below. Now with the power off, I'll kind of show you where the CN5 location is. It's at the top back. It's this first green plug, and you can actually pull that green plug out. And you just hook your condensate switch into the outer two locations. You can kind of see it there. I've run it down. I run it through this wire grommet. If you watched part 1, we drilled a hole here for a thermostat wire. So this is my switch right here. Just a simple float switch. We're gonna go ahead and test that in a minute. I'm gonna plug this back in. This goes into the top location over here, CN5. So right there, it's like a little row of green terminal blocks that you can screw things into. And then right below that, I don't know if you can see this on here or not. Right below that, there's a little black box. It is right there. We're gonna go ahead and pull that out. That's the J1 jumper. All right, we've removed the jumper. It's located again right below this green block here where we wired in our float switch. There's a little, you can kind of see the little silver nub sticking out. So there's a little jumper block right here. It is super tiny. I don't know if you can even see. I mean, it's really little. You got to get a small pair of needle nose to pull it off. But that's a little jumper block. So we're going to go ahead now. Let's power the unit back up, turn it on cool, and see if we can't get the switch to work. All right, we got power to the unit. We got double zeros there on our LED display. That's what you're gonna see with the thermostat in the off position. Let's go ahead and turn it on cool and see if we can get it to run. All right, so we're in the off mode. We're gonna go ahead and turn it on, and we're gonna turn it to cool. And it's 69 degrees in here. I got it set to 66. Let's see if it'll turn on. The unit is running, but we have an E0 code there, so we're going to investigate that, but it is running, the fan's running. Let's go look at the outdoor unit. Yeah, outdoor unit is running. I'm going to check the switch here. Switch has been tripped. I got it flipped upside down and the unit has shut off, and now I get an error code H330. And with the switch back in the connection and no condensate in there, the unit has kicked back on. So I would say that's a good check for the float switch. Now let's investigate what the E0 means.
All right, guys, a quick search on the MrCool support website, and you will see at the very top the EH00, which from my understanding is the same as an E0 code. That is an EEPROM error, which is basically the memory or the communication that happens between the indoor unit and the circuit board there. And in order to fix that, if you look in the maintenance manual, it's pretty easy. You basically shut the unit down. It says 2 minutes here. I left mine shut down about 15 minutes, and it's cleared the code both times. So the E0 code, shut it down, let it rest, power it back up, the code should go away. If it doesn't go away, you got a bigger problem, and you're probably going to have a tech or some kind of service rep come out and fix your unit. Okay, we power cycled the MrCool VersaPro and got the air code to clear, so we're good there. Now it's time to hook in the Broan ERV with the VersaPro and have the 24-volt Nest thermostat control both these pieces of equipment. So let's look at the wiring setup that I used and one gotcha that you may run into. Depending on your thermostat model, you have a couple of different options here with Broan to hook this thing up. If you don't have an open wiring port on your thermostat, you can use this top wiring schematic here, wiring options with a central forced air system. And you're basically just tying things in with the wires that you already have run. You're running the fan control through the ERV. So G coming off your thermostat into the ERV first, and then out of the ERV into the central forced air system, which allows the fans to run interlocked, or an interlocked system where if the ERV kicks on, the fan for your air handler is going to run as well. We tried this hookup. It does work with the MrCool, but I elected, since I have the Nest thermostat and have an extra port, to go with this wiring setup, wiring with central forced air system thermostat. And Nest does not have an ACC plus or an ACC minus port per se. It's AQ plus and minus. And what you have to understand with the Nest thermostat is running power, a 24-volt source, jumping power over into the ACC minus port is not necessary. The thermostat does it internally. So this portion of the wiring setup, don't do that. You could probably damage your equipment if you're running a 24-volt source through there. I'm not sure how the Nest thermostat would like that, but not necessary. So what I've done is run a 24-volt signal both to the ERV and the forced air, so it's tied in together. And then of course, if you run a 24-volt source there, we're going to complete the circuit with C and run the neutral back, so we've tied it in there. And then your thermostat port on the Nest, AQ plus instead of ACC plus. You can configure that, hook that into your vent port on the ERV, and that'll control the ventilation. And there's a setting inside the app where you can interlock the fans, which is what I've chosen to do. Now, if you don't have either one of these options, there is also a switch, dry switch option here where you can run the ERV as a standalone piece of equipment. Bathroom exhaust fan would maybe be one example where you just have switches inside your bathroom, and you can turn the ERV on and run it as your bath exhaust and have balanced pressurization inside your house. So let's take a look at this schematic and how I've done it. All right, let's take a look at the wiring here at the thermostat. We have two ports at the bottom, AQ plus, AQ minus. You can see the AQ minus I've left open. The AQ plus, we had a white wire that was unused, and we've went ahead and hooked that up to the AQ plus port, and we've configured the thermostat and told it that we're running a ventilation system with this port. So let's look at the other end now. Okay, look inside the ERV here. We have our three ports. The red is the R, 24-volt power. C for the common, that's blue. And then the white we have hooked up to the vent port. So our three wires there. And then we've run that with some leftover 18/8 thermostat wire. We've come down inside the MrCool. We've bypassed the air handler with the white wire. This is that vent port that's on the ERV that goes over into the AQ plus port on the thermostat. So we've just tied those two white wires, the incoming from the thermostat and the incoming from the ERV, we've tied them in together here inside the air handler. The power source, the red, we've just pigtailed those together. We have red over here at the bottom on the 24-volt bar inside the air handler, and that goes back out into the thermostat. So those are all tied together, and then of course the blue is the same setup. We have the blues, all three of those tied together. So the blue from the thermostat going into the air handler and going up into the ERV. And that's really all there is to it. And then you configure the rest inside the Google Home app. Here comes the fun part, guys. I got everything buttoned back up and we're gonna go ahead and test it. Now I don't have the ductwork hooked up yet for the ERV, so I'm just gonna show you guys electrically how things are working, how I'm controlling the ERV. And I guess, spoiler alert, if I had one wish list from Google, it would be make your Nest thermostat, have a setting in that or a page where I can control the ERV. For now, to do the control for this, I have to use the Google Home app. I'm going to show you that. But everything else I can control via the thermostat. So let's take a look at how I have things set up and how I'm going to run it. Here's the Nest thermostat setting. We have it set to heat, 55 degrees. It's actually 56 inside right now. 47 out with 52% relative humidity. And as of right now, it's not calling for heat. So let's go look at the air handler. All right, it's not calling for heat. So we have 0, 0 here. So everything is off. The unit up here is on standby mode off. All right, let's go back and call for heat and watch what happens here. All right, so let's go ahead and make it call for heat here. So 56. 57, there we go. And it should start calling for heat. Let's go check the air handler. We have the anti-cold blow protection on. So the outdoor unit should be running. The indoor unit is not running yet. Let's go check. Yes, the outdoor unit is running. Let's go back in and check. It's gonna get things warmed up first before it starts blowing so you don't get any cold air out when you first go into the heat mode. Still no air coming out of the register yet, so it's gonna take a few minutes here. And while we're waiting for that, you can see my ERV is still in standby mode. All right, fan is starting to kick on. I don't know if you guys can hear that. And it's slowly ramping up. If you watched the previous video, we had this setting. We made this anti-cold blow setting on the dip switches. We looked at that, but you can see the red block, the first dip switch there. All right, so we are up and running. Let's go check the thermostat out again. All right, heating to 57 degrees. Okay, so we're in good shape there. And if I wanted to further test it, I could turn it up a little more. Humidity is a little bit high in here, I guess, so the dehumidifier just kicked on. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. It's a little bit noisy. Okay, let's go back and check that out. Okay, so now we got the dehu running. can hear it's a little bit noisier in here. And let's see what we got there. Still showing 90, and we got airflow. Okay, so that's how we're running the heat. Dehumidifier, we hooked that up in the last video. If you need to know how to do that, you can look at that. Let's look at the ventilation mode now. Let's get this thing going. Along with the dehu, the heating and cooling, we'll have all three pieces of equipment running at the same time. All right, so let's go into the Google Home app here. And you can kind of see what we got going on here. We're in the hallway. Actually, let me go back to the main. When you first pull the app open, if you don't have anything selected, this is what it's going to look like. So this is our thermostat. So we're going to go ahead and click into that. We can see that we're heating mode, and the relative humidity, outdoor air temperature, indoor, all that good stuff. Now you would think for the ventilation you would click into here, but this is basically the same setting if you want to temporarily run it for a little bit. I think, yeah, up to 1 week, 15 minutes up to 1 week. That's not really what we want. So we're going to close out of this. Since we're using the ERV as constant ventilation because we're in a tight home, you need to come to the top here, go to the gear, come down into your equipment. You can see I have a heat pump, ventilation, and a dehumidifier. Let's click into that. Dehumidifier, my settings in here, you can see we want it to maintain a max level of 55% relative humidity. Some other settings you can play with in there. Let's go back. Ventilation, let's look in there. There's our ventilation. Notice enable ventilation is off. When I selected on required daily ventilation, I want it to run every day, all day. It's an ERV, and I want to interlock the fan. This is the setting here where you interlock your air handler fan with your ERV. Let's go ahead and turn the ventilation on and watch what happens. You should see this bottom damper open. We should go from standby mode here. There, it's opening. And now it's a little bit noisier. That's running at 80, I think I have it set for 83 CFMs. Yeah, roughly. You can adjust this based on your home, how many people you got in it, how big it is, what you're doing with the system. And there's some documentation, some ASHRAE requirements that you should have this set at. I'm using this for 2 bathroom ventilation areas and 2 people in the house. So I got it set for about 80-ish, and you can tweak this. I can show you guys maybe in a later video. So we're running the ERV. We got still calling for heat. So the air handler is running and the dehu is still running as well. So we got all 3 pieces of equipment running at once. Let's go check the thermostat out. Thermostat should be giving us some clues as to what's actually running. Ventilation plus fan plus dehumidifier. And the red background means it's calling for heat. So this is kind of showing us everything that's running here. It's looking good. We're honestly fairly close here to the relative humidity that we want. So I would guess the dehumidifier would be kicking off here shortly. But that's the setup. Now we can let's go ahead and turn the heat back off, and I'll show you how that works. So we're just gonna drop the temperature down back to 55 degrees. And it should, yep, learning. Ventilation plus fan is still running. Probably the dehu, it sounds like it's still running too. Yep. Now let's go back and look at the air handler. All right, here we go. ERV still running. Balanced 82, 83 CFMs in and out. The air handler 1-0, which tells me the fan is running. It's not calling for heat or cooling. And the dehu is still running because we're still above that 50% relative humidity. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll go back into the app now. and we can turn this off. Now my fan should continue to run because I have it interlocked also with the dehu. So anytime this is running or this is running, my fan should run. So let's turn this off and see if the fan continues to run here since the dehumidifier is running. In order to do that, we're gonna go back into the Google Home app, ventilation. We're gonna disable, turn it back, and we should be turned off. The damper's closing. We are back in the standby mode. Damper is fully closed. Notice I still have 1.0 on there because the dehumidifier is running. So let's go ahead and turn the dehumidifier off and see if the fan turns off. So again, we're back into the equipment page here, dehumidifier, relative humidity. Let's go ahead and disable that. And dehumidifier is turned off. We're back down to 00. Let's go look at the thermostat. And thermostat showing, okay, heat set to 55, it's 57 in here, 47 outside, 51% relative humidity. Now I should be able to turn that back on, run the heat like we were before without anything else running. So that's a good test in my book. Guys, I hope that all makes sense, and hopefully that kind of shows you how I'm hooking things up and how I'm controlling each piece of equipment individually and how they kind of work together. Again, there's different ways to do this. I'm not saying this is the best or the only way to do it by any means. This is just how I'm doing it. Now, again, I want to reiterate, I have yet to hook everything, plumb everything together. So we are going to have to come back later on down the road. I'm going to have a professional come in. We're going to check our pressures and our flows and make sure everything is working good once we get the ductwork hooked up for the ERV. But otherwise, the wiring portion of everything is complete, and I actually have dehumidification and heating and cooling going in the house, so that's nice. Ventilation will come next, and you know, honestly, until I get the bathrooms up and running and until we're actually in here full time, this isn't a huge concern for me, but we definitely are going to need it once we get the occupancy permit and we're generating humidity and CO2s inside the home. So that's this setup. That's going to be the final video for the wiring. We'll come back and I'll show you the finished product when we get everything plumbed together and then go through all that testing process. And then we also have, as far as mechanicals go in this house, the range hood. That's a 700 CFM range hood, and I have a makeup air system to go in with that. Since we have a tight home, we want to make sure that we're balancing what we're pulling out of the home and bringing the same amount of air into the home so we don't depressurize or pressurize the house. Guys, that's all I have for you today. If you have any comments, questions, put them down below and I'll try to answer them as always. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.